Great. Jamie, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate your time, your effort, your work doing responsible tourism marketing. And first question is, how are you feeling today, Jamie?
First of all, Marcus, thank you for having me on the podcast. But today, feeling just already overwhelmed. I mean, it's only the 6th of January and I've had a bit of time to rest over Christmas. But I mean, there's already so many things I've got to, try and keep my head above water with, like events I've got running in January, back to client work and all these other bits and pieces. And then, of course, staying on top of all the LinkedIn content as well. So I'm already starting to feel a bit burnt out. But once again, on top of all the typical January admin, I'm sure I'll be feeling a lot more relaxed as the year goes on. Yeah.
Yeah, and the end of the years was very intense as well. So 2025 is going to be a good year, but intense. I know.
Yes, definitely.
So tell me, who's Jamie Burr? Is that the correct pronunciation of your name?
Yeah, Jamie Burr, that's it.
Antes de continuar, dale like al video, suscríbete y activa la campanita para más entrevistas como esta.
Who's Jamie?
So, Jamie is a mid-30s British man, unfortunately from England, like we said before the podcast, stuck in a horrible, grey, cloudy, rainy country. But I'm a freelancer now, but I've gone by the tag of a responsible tourism marketer for the last year and a half or so. And my job is to basically help tourism businesses that are taking sustainability and responsible tourism seriously to do their marketing and communications better, to do their storytelling effectively, and to connect with travelers with meaning and purpose. So, going beyond just, focusing on profit all the time, but also balancing that with, I use a triple bottom line approach with my work. So profit, of course, you need profit to have a business basically, but you also need to balance that with how are you benefiting people and how are you benefiting the environment? How are you benefiting the planet? Yeah. So that's it in a nutshell, really.
Why is that important in the world we live in? Why is that important to make a responsible marketing?
Well, I mean, I'm not really that keen on the word marketing itself because it's got so many bad connotations recently where people are sort of psychologically tricked into buying things that they don't need. But climate change is, of course, a growing problem, and I feel like we're rapidly running out of time. So in tourism, it's becoming a larger and larger, it's taking up a bigger percentage of the global carbon emissions year on year, whereas other industries are decarbonizing fairly effectively. They're doing it a lot quicker than tourism. While at the moment, approximations are anywhere between 2 and 8% that aviation and tourism is as a percentage of global carbon emissions. That figure is going up and up. And while there are some efforts to make things better in terms of the hospitality segment, hotels, working towards, electric flights and hydrogen-fueled flights and things like that. But the pace of the efforts to make things more sustainable is being outpaced by the demand for global travel. So while we are making steps to make it more sustainable and the average carbon emissions per traveller is coming down, the total volume of carbon emissions is still going up. So like I said, the pace of demand is outpacing sustainability efforts at the moment. So the need is urgent already in terms of just global challenges in climate change, but particularly in tourism.
So if there is a responsible tourism marketing, well, that's the thing that you're doing at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
What makes a non-responsible marketing in tourism?
Well, there's certainly lots of greenwashing within the industry at the moment, like, seeing airlines, for example, posting pictures of a plane on the background of lots of trees and things like that. You see the same things with particular hotel businesses and enterprises. So I guess irresponsible marketing is just saying that you're doing the right stuff without actually doing it. So you're talking the talk, but you're not walking the walk. You might be trying to hide things. You focus on promoting all of the good stuff that you're doing, but hiding the bad stuff. There's things in the airline industry called, is it tanking or something like that? But I remember watching a documentary a few years ago where, airlines like British Airways, for example, were saying, oh, all of our in-flight travel magazines are, made from 100% sustainable paper and things like that. But at the same time, they're doing this tanking practice, and I'm not sure if I've got that word right. I can't remember it exactly. But basically carrying more fuel than you need for a flight because it's more expensive to refuel in particular other countries like Germany. So you take on extra fuel, and that extra fuel means extra weight. So the plane has that much more carbon emissions, which is just, it's unnecessary and just irresponsible, I think. So it's about trying to do things transparently, honestly, and as well as you can, and not just hiding the bad stuff. Yeah, it's about doing things honestly and, being serious about sustainability and not just working towards profits all the time. It's got to be a holistic strategy if you want to do things sustainably. Because in tourism, if we carry on the way that we're doing, we're going to see ski resorts disappear first of all, and we'll see developing countries and small island nations like in the Pacific, for example, they just unfortunately completely disappear unless we take action now. So yeah, lots of work to do.
Of course. So what's the positive impact that a company that doesn't have like a sustainable policies and something like that, what they can expect from changing like the first position, like not doing anything about sustainability and making a change? Like they want to do it, but they don't know how to. What they can expect in a positive impact?
Well, with positive impact, there's so many different things that you can do in terms of being a more responsible tourism business. And there's lots of hotel companies, small businesses that are already doing sustainable practices, but they don't know it yet. Lots of people think that it's just about using solar panels, for example, to creating renewable energy, but it's so much more than that. It's about effective food, water, waste management, and things like that. Even if you're hiring local people within your community, that is a sustainability green tick. If you're using local suppliers, again, that's another green tick. So there's so many different things that you can do, and so many parts of the puzzle that you can work towards. It doesn't just have to be, okay, I don't have solar panels, so I'm not sustainable. That's just one tiny part of it, having solar panels or renewable energy. I mean, there's something called the GSTC criteria. The Global Sustainable Tourism Council have put together this big document for hotels and tour operators and destinations as well, where there is this whole document which is just loaded with all of these specific criteria about specific things within each environmental, social, cultural, and economic pillar that you can do to make your business more sustainable. And each of those has specific things like, are you employing local people? Are you using local produce? Are you promoting local handicrafts and souvenirs rather than imported ones and things like that? I mean, the GSTC criteria is probably the most dense and the best example of how to do things sustainably that we have at the moment. It's not perfect, but it's the best we have at the moment, and it's very, very good. But of course, there's always room to be better. But yeah.
Understand. What's your perspective on the demand side? Because I worked in hospitality, luxury industry, and people think that sustainability and these kind of experiences are a luxury thing. It's like eating healthy, like people think that eating healthy, like, I don't know, having oats in the morning and whatever, fruits and stuff. It's something that people with money can do. How can we change that? What's the importance of marketing in tourism to change that perspective?
I mean, I do think that a lot of sustainable tourism is leaning towards that more expensive, more luxury side. But I think it doesn't have to be the case for all businesses. There are certainly companies out there that don't do the luxury side. It's more raw, more, I guess, budget friendly, I suppose. But yeah, I think in terms of marketing, there's lots of tourism businesses that have a problem with communicating their brand I go on so many websites, travel websites and social media channels like on Facebook, and a lot of the time they're just focusing on those flashy deals that book now, these limited places, Black Friday deals and things like that. But in marketing, we speak about this thing called the 95-5 rule, where only 5% of your customers are ready to book at any given time. A more effective thing to do is to focus on the 95% and build this long-term, sustainable in both ways, really. Sustainable in terms of, you want to last for the next 10, 20, 50 years, but also doing things responsibly. So rather than just focusing on, fantastic new deal, $500 off this trip to Argentina and Patagonia or safari or whatever, I think it's more effective to show behind the scenes, show stories of local people and the suppliers that you're working with, what makes a destination truly unique rather than just the typical bucket list hotspot checklist. So what are the traditions within the community? What is the local wildlife like? Because I think that's what really interests people. People don't want tours per se. They want what the tour can offer. And there's, you can go down the funnel of how deep that goes. So the tour offers you a chance to connect with local experiences and local, destinations, nature and things like that. But you can go a step further. Like, what does that nature experience give you? It gives you stories, it gives you memories. And I think those stories and memories that you can tell your friends and family are really what makes sustainable tourism much better than the typical package holiday alternatives. Like that my dad, for example, goes on every year to Turkey or Egypt, just spending 2 weeks at an all-inclusive hotel by the pool, never leaves the resort and just drinks beer day after day. And I just think there are better stories to be told, and there are lots of companies now doing that. But I think that the problem is still that storytelling part, the marketing part. Yeah,
must be very challenging to tell that story behind the storytelling. From what are you trying to show the tourist, and how do you put it on social media? Then social media on your website. What's your process to do that with your customers?
well, my customers are tourism businesses, so it's slightly different for me. Whereas, a typical tour operator or hotel will have a B2C model. But at the same time, there's still a lot of, overlap between things that I do and things that sustainable tourism businesses can do. So, I work with websites, social media, email, content marketing, and basically any digital marketing channel you can think of. But lots of companies I see focus on spending, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on things like Google ads or Facebook ads. And while those can be really effective at, supercharging your awareness and getting more clicks, getting more bookings and things like that, if you don't have the sort of foundations of a successful strategy in place, like a really great website and valuable content, then ads can be risky if you don't have those foundations in place, and they can just be a complete waste of your money. But what I emphasize with my B2B clients working with responsible tourism businesses is that your website is the most important thing in terms of your marketing, because if they're at any point going to consider you, it doesn't matter if they've come from Facebook or come through emails or come through a YouTube video. At some point, if they're serious about your business and what you offer, they're going to visit your website. And in today's market, websites need to be good, because if they fall short of customer expectations, then any small, tiny, significant signal is just going to make them think, this website looks like it's 10 years old, I'll just go to someone else. There's just that seed of doubt there. But then once you've got the website in place, my personal strategy is to also have a decent piece of content. So I've created the Guide to Responsible Tourism Marketing. And that is, not just like a one-page checklist. It's 33 pages of practical tips for responsible tourism businesses. So you link that piece of content to your website, and then you can obviously boost that through ads. But that piece of content can then be a gateway to your mailing list. And your mailing list, when you're sending people emails, it's kind of like a typical McDonald's or Coca-Cola ad. The emails and the content needs to be valuable, of course, but the more the most important idea behind it is that you're showing up and reminding people that you exist. So tour operators and hotels can do the same. They can create this amazing piece of content, like a guide to your destination, or a guide to local culture, traditions, cuisine, wildlife, whatever you want it to be. And then once they're into that mailing list, you're reminding them again and again that of all the things that you're doing, but also communicating your values and your authenticity, and hopefully converting that awareness into interest, that interest into desire, and that desire into action, which is hopefully booking and going on this amazing experience.
Completely agree. That resonates a lot. I wanted to ask you, why do you use your name instead of having a company name? And this is like a question for myself, because I started this podcast with the name of Traveler Amigos, because I met so many friends, and then I wanted to interview them and sharing their stories. But then I realized that it worked better to have my name on it, because people trust more. I don't know why, but people trust more on the person behind, but I don't know, what's your experience?
I'll be honest with you, Marcos. Initially, it was because I couldn't think of a decent company name. I've literally got this list I'm still working on at the moment, which is a list of all these words that I like the sound of, and I'm hoping one day they come together to form this amazing, inspiring company name. But at the moment, the best I've got is my name. And I'm not a big fan of my name or my website. Name jamieburr.com is the most boring website name you can imagine. At the same time, reflecting now back on it, it has been a big piece of my personal branding. So, rather than people thinking of, responsible travel, amazing marketing.com or whatever, something like that, people remember the name Jamie Burr, and it helps to build that personal brand. And like you said, Marcos, especially on LinkedIn, people want to see the people behind the business, the personality, what makes them different and unique, rather than just a typical company voice, which is just sort of sounds like everyone else. If you're a person, there's so many things that make you individual and different, like your background, but also your experiences and your personality. So I try and always make that come through whenever I'm having chats with people like you or on LinkedIn. Just trying to make it as authentic and as me as I can. But, I don't want to be a freelancer forever. I would eventually like to have this company. But for now, jamieburr.com is working. So I'm sticking with it for now. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. It works. So in a few days, you're hosting the world's first virtual sustainable tourism speed networking event. So what is this about, and why should people sign in?
Yes, and thank you for picking up a ticket, Marcos. I saw the order a couple of days ago come through, so thanks for joining that. Yeah, the idea was basically I see one of the big problems I think in sustainable tourism is that, I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn and people posting about these ideas that they have, but it feels like a very fractured industry at the moment. There's lots of pieces of the puzzle, but they're not yet come together. And I think when people do come together and create these communities and collaborations, then, we can have that much more impact. So the first thing I realized and noticed when I went freelance after being fired from my previous job working at a tourism marketing agency was the lack of colleagues and lack of support, people that you could speak to within the company if you needed some ideas or you needed some feedback. And all of a sudden, being solo, going freelance, I was like, I've got no one to bounce ideas off of here. So that was, one of the reasons why I created this sustainable tourism community for professionals called Better Routes Collective. And then over time, I've just seen so many people, message me and comment and bounce back ideas and things. And I just thought, what people really need working in sustainable tourism is a platform and a place that they can connect and communicate with each other, rather than just, the typical LinkedIn message or a connection request. How are you going to actually transform that into something that's real and genuine and meaningful, and not just, an extra follower or connection? How are you going to actually make progress together rather than, having two separate things. So the sustainable tourism networking thing was just sort of all of that coming together, basically. I wanted to create somewhere where people from all different countries, all different backgrounds and experiences can come together and share ideas in this speed networking format. I did an event at World Travel Market, not the year just gone, but the year before, where I met some amazing people in this speed networking format. And it was 90 seconds to just speak to other people around the room and then ding, 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 change. And I thought that could be really, really useful in a virtual setting, but also just specifically for sustainable tourism professionals. You know, it's good to have your own niche, and that's my niche, sustainable tourism. So I just wanted it to be a place that fuels connections and is of genuine value that people can benefit from. So yeah, that's it. 16th of January, not long now, starting to panic about how it's all going to come together because it's the very first one. But yeah, hoping to do it on a quarterly basis and be a sort of driver of those connections so that we can make the industry better. Yeah.
Signing, and I'm gonna be there. And I think it's very interesting what are you proposing to do, because I realize as well that in tourism, I think in general in tourism, because I interview people from sustainable tourism or companies that are making good things about sustainability in Chile in particular, but I also connect with a lot of travelers, and networking, it's very helpful, and to know different perspectives from an industry. I don't know, and people don't do it enough. I think it's very like interesting how you make connections. And now, for example, in my case, people know me because I have a lot of contacts from the people that I interview, and it is a very genuine contact. It's not just a request, as you said, you know, and I do share some message with these people sometime, and I'm willing to make new businesses or I don't know, but people is willing to make contacts and connect and generally connect with others. And it's a very good opportunity that you are bringing to many people from around the world. I guess there's people from many countries as well.
Yeah, there's people from 13 different countries at the moment. So, you know, as far as from Chile to India, we've got people in Europe and Canada, United States as well. So I'm really surprised at the response that it's gotten so far. And yeah, it should be fun. But I mean, like I said about the World Travel Market event that I went to, I wanted to make it about sustainable tourism, because although that event was great in speed networking sense, you know, tourism is such a massive thing. You know, I was there as a sustainable tourism marketer, speaking to people who were doing, you know, medical tourism in Turkey and things like that. And I'm like, this is a nice conversation, and I really like you as a person, but there's no real common ground between us here. This connection isn't really going to go anywhere. But at least with this event, everyone is all on the same page, in the sense that we all want to make tourism better. And, you know, there's so many opportunities there that tour operators can connect with hotels, digital marketers and travel tech professionals. There's, you know, so many different job titles and individuals that we've got coming to this event that I'm hoping that people find really useful connections within that. And it's not just, you know, a one-to-one speed networking thing. I was trying to brainstorm what would be the best format for it. So we're going to have groups of 4 people, which are then shuffled every 5 minutes. So rather than having a 5-minute conversation with one person, which can feel a little bit intense, especially in a virtual call, where it's, you know, if there's Wi-Fi connection issues or something, it can just feel a bit stiff. But if you're in a group of 4 people, not only is it a bit more relaxing because everyone can have a bit of input and feedback and a bit of a laugh, but you also triple the number of connections that you make. So rather than making 10 meetings, there's going to be 10 groups rotated. Rather than having 10 one-to-one chats, you have 10 chats with 3 other people. So you make 30 connections within the space of an hour, which is just, you know, hopefully you meet the right people, but, you know, 30 connections is, I think, a pretty decent speed networking event. But
of course,
we'll see how it goes. It might just crash and burn, but
no, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. All good. So I assume that you've been doing this responsible tourism marketing for a while and networking as well. What have you seen that proves that this works to make a change?
I mean, there's so many different tourism businesses out there, and there's a lot of, I mean, the things that I write on LinkedIn, there's so much energy and passion within the comment section of people messaging me that, you know, it's just about how do we transform these ideas into reality. There's lots of bad stuff going on in the industry, but there's so much drive and energy and growing awareness. People from other parts of the industry that have not necessarily been as sustainable before, but in promoting these sort of controversial topics and things that are going to drive a lot of conversation, that just further increases the awareness and the engagement. And then other people sort of get pulled into that chat, and then they start to become more and more aware of the issues within tourism. You know, like traditional travel agencies, for example. My first job in tourism was working with a luxury travel agency, and there was zero conversation about sustainability. But by sort of challenging the things that are wrong in tourism, maybe I'm a bit too pessimistic and negative sometimes with the stuff that I post, but I want to also highlight the bad stuff as well as the good stuff. You know, lots of people talk about the good stuff and being positive, but the reality is that we've got a lot of problems within the industry that need to be fixed or changed or something like that. So I'm hoping that by talking about delicate issues like, you know, last month or end of November, I posted about tourism in Antarctica, and that has had the most engagement I've had on any post ever. Lots of people backing it, saying like, yeah, we should ban tourism in Antarctica. But then you've got polar tour operators saying you can't ban tourism in Antarctica because no one owns Antarctica. So really, one of the interesting things that I want to do, or the thing that's interesting me at least, is to have these conversations and this dialogue with people that don't agree with my point of view or don't agree with the values and principles of sustainable tourism. Say like, it's a myth, it's an impossible dream, it's, you know, we just need to make money and that's it. Yeah, I mean, like Antarctica, just as a case study, is just growing year on year as one of these bucket list destinations. You see it, you know, featured more and more in places like Condé Nast Traveler. I'm thinking like, just banging my head against the table, like, what are you doing promoting Antarctica as a tourist destination? You know, it's one of the most fragile ecosystems, if not the most fragile ecosystem in the world. And, you know, that doesn't just apply to Antarctica, but so many different places around the world where tourism is not managed properly. And then you have all these awful consequences, not just environmental consequences, but you can talk about and you can observe things like the social and cultural consequences. Places like Barcelona, for example, you know, that's been a really popular European destination for decades now. But last year, you're starting to see the backlash from it, the consequences of over-tourism where things aren't managed properly, and people, residents in Barcelona, taking to the streets with signs saying tourists go home and squirting tourists with water pistols. It's just, you know, that's what happens when tourism goes wrong. So you need to have a long-term strategy about how you're going to make it sustainable, not just in an environmental sense, but how you're also going to balance the needs of travelers with the needs of local people and the community. Yep, big challenge.
Indeed it is. Jamie, what is the worst advice have you ever received on pursuing a career in tourism?
The worst advice?
The worst.
Gosh, the worst advice I've received pursuing a career in tourism. Let's think. I don't know really. I mean, I've had a couple of bad experiences with previous jobs and previous managers. I mean, the thing that with my first job working in the luxury travel agency, there was always this pressure to follow up with clients and customers. And, you know, why haven't you emailed them or called them again and again and again? And it's just this like overbearing pressure of, you know, maybe the traveler just doesn't want it. Maybe what we're offering is not good enough. You know, there's the whole customer journey, taking through from product to marketing to sales. And if any one of those things is not as good as it can be, then you're going to lose a sale. And there were lots of things wrong within that first company I worked with, especially in terms of the marketing, but also, our processes as a company. So we were basically just incentivized to chase the sale at all costs. Actually, I just remembered this amazing interview that I had at TUI, actually, one of the TUI branches in my local town. I went for an interview there, and the manager was literally like one of these caricature characters from The Office or something like that. And I remember that he told me that he wouldn't give me the job after the interview because he felt that I didn't want the sales thing enough. But the thing that stuck out to me was he said, I've got a customer coming in today booking a trip to Mexico, and I'm not letting him back out the door until I get my 30 grand. And I was like, wow, that's really the sort of job and the relationship you want to have with customers, is like holding them hostage until you get your money paid. And I was just sort of like, yep, really, really don't like the idea of sales, at least with a company that's chasing it so ferociously like that. But yeah, I think I've managed to stay well clear of a lot of bad advice. It's just observing bad practices and bad attitudes towards not just sustainability, but also towards travelers as well, and just seeing them as a means of making money, basically, and rather than offering them decent, memorable experiences.
Now, what's the best advice have you received?
The best advice? To be honest, it was probably when I was studying my master's in tourism management back in 2018, 2019. I had this amazing lecturer called Sean Beer, who's just like a saint, basically. Anytime you had him as a lecturer, you knew it was going to be a good one. But the thing I've always remembered as a piece of advice was just to be kind. Be kind, be thoughtful, and that is such a simple thing. But if you can be generous with your time and, helping people, there's obviously benefits to helping people in any career path and sharing advice and being generous with your time and resources and things like that. But especially in sustainable tourism, because we're trying to make things better. We're trying to fight against climate change and all these other issues. So yeah, it's a small piece of advice, but it's one that's stuck with me, is just to be kind, be generous, and help people as much as you can. So that's my work in responsible tourism marketing. Is, of course, making money is a bonus, and I'd love to be rich and comfortable, but that's not why I'm doing it. And I think if you're in sustainable tourism to make money and that's your priority, then it's the wrong industry for you. It's about something more than that. It's about making the world a better place, giving better travel experiences and memories, and just trying to do things as responsibly as you can. And that responsible thing is a big thing that it encapsulates, but doing every piece of the puzzle as well as you can.
Absolutely. And being kind is such a good advice. I think we are not aware on what's the impact of being kind with people, because you're not, it's like, okay, I'm being kind with someone, but then this person is going to be kind with other people because it's going to be in the good mood. It's like when you work in the tourism industry, it's a key thing. I worked in hospitality, luxury, and it's such a great thing to realize that being kind brings good energies, and we appreciate good energies working with people. And I don't know, if you walk on the streets, just not be an asshole, like it's not too hard to not be an asshole, but people still do it anyways.
Yeah, I mean, like, especially being kind, I work B2B, business to business, but especially in, if you're working with travelers, the best memories that I've had from my backpacking trips and places and things like that in like Southeast Asia is, going through a market in Ho Chi Minh, for example, and just seeing this tiny old lady that's making this amazing Vietnamese pho soup, and she was sort of laughing at me as I was chopping up my greens and vegetables to go in the soup, and say, "Oh, no, you're doing it all wrong." And we had a bit of a laugh, and then as I left, I asked her for a picture, and she got all shy and red and was like hiding away from me, like, no, I don't want a picture. I eventually persuaded her to have a picture with me. It's just one of these really heartwarming memories that I've still got. So yeah, she was kind to me, and that has stuck with me. So we can do the same with travelers, and hopefully through sustainable travel experiences and being kind, you remember those things and you think, I want some more of that. I want some more of that responsible tourism and an opportunity to connect with local people again. Yeah.
Of course. Absolutely. And Jamie, before we finish this interview, I have a dynamic that last guest leaves a question for the next one without knowing who's going to be, of course. Okay, so last guest was Felipe Vera. He is a former vice president of Green Destinations. Yes, he's chilling. He's living here in the middle of the country, very close to me. And the question is, how would you like to be remembered, and what do you think will be your legacy?
How would I like to be remembered, and how would I like my legacy to be remembered? Boy, wow. Gosh, how would I like to be remembered? I think I'd like to be remembered as someone that helped other people to, take the leap of faith into sustainable tourism. For people who are feeling a bit lost and not sure what they wanted to do, they wanted to work towards making a better world somehow. It sounds a bit, I don't know, maybe a bit over the top, working towards a better world, but, to make a positive change somehow, but they weren't sure of how to do it. Like, I wanted to sort of give that olive branch of, if you're feeling a bit lost, I'm happy to give you the advice and to help you find your way. Because I've been lost before, and I've reached out to people who've been kind and generous and helped me find my path to where I am today. So yeah, someone that was kind and generous, really. Nothing too much more than that. I'm not looking to make it into any history books or anything like that, but yeah, just someone who helped other people, I guess.
What would you ask for to the next guest without knowing who's going to be?
Next guest. What to ask the next guest? I think I'd like to ask them, how can they be more sustainable or responsible in terms of their own personal life in the short term? Let's say tomorrow. What can you do tomorrow that's going to make a difference to your habits? You can carry on as a long-term thing, but what change can you make to become more sustainable and more responsible as not just a traveler, but as a person?
Perfect. I'll make the question. Jamie, thanks very much for your time. Thanks for your generosity, sharing your knowledge, your vision within the sustainable tourism marketing industry. Is inspiring for me. We have a talk before recording this interview, and I appreciate your time, your work. Just thank you for being here. I don't know if you have some final words. Open microphone for you to say whatever you want to say.
I'd like to thank you for having me on, Marcus. It's been a real pleasure speaking to you and having the chance to discuss all these important topics within the industry. I guess I'd just like to encourage tourism businesses in any shape or form, whether they're sustainable or not so sustainable, that we are really rapidly getting towards a tipping point now where there is, destinations are in danger of disappearing or, getting backlash from over-tourism, places like Barcelona, Bali, Amsterdam, wherever. So the need is now more urgent than ever to manage tourism responsibly and to do things better. And if we keep on going the way that we're currently going, then the tourism industry is going to disappear within the next, 50, 60, 70 years. So while you're making, maybe bucket loads of money now, that's all going to dry up very, very quickly. So yeah, just let's be better, let's do better, and let's act more responsibly and think about people and the planet more than just our own bank accounts and wallets. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Jamie. I hope you have a great day. Good luck with your work. I think it's inspiring, amazing. So thanks very much for sharing it.
Very welcome. Nice to speak to you, Marcos.
Dale like al video, suscríbete y activa la campanita para más entrevistas como esta.